Johnson County Council meeting to order on this Monday, April 13th, 2026 at 6:00 p.m. Amy, will you please take roll call?
Michelle Ann Graves.
Here.
Jonathan Myers.
Here.
Melinda Griesemer. Here. John Mallers.
Here.
Pamela Burton.
Here.
John Dittmers.
Here.
Ron Bates.
Present.
Please pray with us if you care to, and then we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Burton.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today and for the opportunity to serve Johnson County. As we begin, guide our thoughts, our words, and our decisions. Please help us to work together with respect, wisdom, and a shared purpose. Bless this meeting and the people we serve. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we are ready to approve the agenda, but we do have 3 changes for tonight to make note of. The first change is item F2. Approval of interlocal agreement with Greenwood regarding Bridge 602 has been pulled from the agenda. Item D7 should have the location number of 0140 instead of 0138. And then the last change to the agenda is item D5. WIC program has been pulled from the agenda. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda as amended. Second.
I have a first from John Mallers, a second by Ron Bates. Signify by saying aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. At this part of the agenda, we have a public hearing.
Public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. This part of the meeting is open for public comments. These are for agenda items only, and we ask that you limit to your comments to 5 minutes per person. Seeing none, we'll move on now to the public hearing on additional appropriation of the bond proceeds for the Nineveh Fire Protection District 2026 Project Bond Fund, capital outlays in the amount of $4,070,000. We will convene a public hearing today, April 13th, 2026 at 6:00 p.m. to receive comment on County Council Ordinance 2026-03, an ordinance of the Johnson County Council approving an additional appropriation of certain real property sale proceeds received by the Nineveh Fire Protection District, Johnson County, Indiana, related to the construction of a new fire station facility for the Nineveh Fire Protection District, Johnson County, Indiana. Members of the public appearing at this hearing have a right to be heard regarding the ordinance. Is anyone present this evening who would like to be heard? With no one appearing to comment, we will now close the public comment portion of the hearing. Do we need to read the ordinance, Ms. Taylor?
I think you can just entertain a motion to
Okay.
approve it.
Then in that case, I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as listed as item B on your agenda.
So moved.
I have a first by Pam Burton,
Second.
second by Jonathan T. Myers. Any further discussion?
Just one, I think it's heard in previous conversations about this topic that we have to approve it even though it's for a different taxing district, which is of course the Nineveh taxing district, fire district, correct?
Correct.
Just wanted to ask that for clarification.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good question. Any further discussion? With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If there is no further business to discuss, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
I have a first by Ron Bates, a second by Jonathan T. Myers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So now we're moving on to item C on our agenda, the second reading approval of ordinance 2026-3, second reading.
You kind of already.
We kind of already did that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're moving on to routine matters consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull anything off that consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Do we have to say minus number 5 and with the change number 7? Okay, as amended, the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a first by John Mallers, a second by John Dittmers, to approve routine matters with the amendments as read earlier tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Salary ordinance amendments, additional appropriations, reductions and transfers. First up, innkeeper's tax collections. Welcome, Ken Kosky.
Thank you. For the record, I am Ken Kosky, Director of Tourism. Before you, I gave you one of our annual reports, which summarizes the work we did last year. I also provided you one of our activities guides and our event guides, so you, residents and visitors, can plan your fun. So that's some of the main tools that we use to get people into our communities and enjoy all that we have to offer. So just wanted to update you on a few things that we're doing this year. We are again partnering with Visit Indiana. So our $150,000 investment in advertising is matched by them to create $300,000 in ad spending. So we're very judicious to make our dollars go further. Our grants, you'll see in that annual report that one of the grants we awarded last year was for an amphitheater in Trafalgar. They poured the concrete and they're soon going to be erecting that structure. And so we'll have live music and events in Trafalgar at their community center yet this summer. See Kevin from Parks left, but they approached us. We will be sponsoring all of their events and concerts this year, and we're also fully funding the ice skating rink to enhance Deck the Stalls. So we're continuing to appreciate the partnership with them. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Would you, I think I've read an article recently, I think expound on it if you would, concerning one thing that was sponsored, by the tourism board, that didn't seem to go well. And so that's been deleted or it's been abandoned.
Oh, the Gatling Gauntlet. Yes. So
Yeah.
that was a partnership with County Parks. So we built an obstacle course with 20 obstacles.
Yes.
It was open before we did that, County Parks checked with the insurer and it was insured. It operated for 6 months. It was a top 5 attraction. And then the insurance company reviewed it and said, oh, I don't know why we insured that. That could be a liability. So we contacted other insurers, including high-risk insurers, and we couldn't get it insured. So we in the county parks pivoted and tried to get state legislators to put that in the same category as equestrian activities or skate parks, things that you inherit an assumed risk. That did not go over in the last few years with the state legislature. So the park board made the difficult decision to close that permanently and repurpose that land for something that can be insured and can be enjoyed. So
Well, thank you.
it's kind of where we are with that.
Any additional questions for Mr. Kosky?
I just have a statement. I think you guys do a great job and you keep the county well informed and you keep people feeling excited about the upcoming event. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. We're very excited. So a passion leads to.
I will entertain a motion if we're ready for that.
I'll make a motion to accept item E1 as presented.
I have a motion from Pam Burton,
I'll second that.
second by Melinda Griesmer. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Up next, E2 County Highway. I did get a phone call from Luke Maston, the County Highway Director, and he is not able to be here tonight. But just a little bit of history of what he's asking for. He came in front of council in October of last year, so that was after budget hearings. And we did approve a part-time hourly rate for his part-time engineer. And the auditor's office caught that we didn't have that rate in place for 2026, so this is to correct that.
Did he bring this up last month when he was here? And he forewarned, I'm not forewarned us, but he kind of foreshadows
Yes.
us that this
Yeah.
was coming, right?
Yes, what he did last month, he appropriated money into a line item to pay for the part-time engineer.
Just
And-
a full discussion on it, as I recall.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that has been asked and answered, if that helps, but what we're kind of doing now is some housekeeping. Yeah, the part-time rate wasn't in our 2026 budget hearings because he didn't know he was gonna have this position.
And the guy, whoever it is on board now. And
Yes.
This is retro back to the first payroll of the year.
Of 2026.
Based on his explanation last month, I would move for approval.
I have a motion from John Dittmers.
Second.
Retro 12/11/25.
Oh, 12/11.
12/11.
Which-
Yeah.
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 Catches when he first came on board, right?
Right.
I'll second.
Motion by John Dittmers, second by Pamela Burton. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Up next, Vasia guardianship fees. I see Lauren coming to the podium. Good evening.
Hello, Lauren Reinerson, Bossier Director. And on the agenda is an additional appropriation for our Bossier Guardianship Fee Fund. I had to utilize the funds I already had appropriated at budget time last year due to my grant funding not being available. So I used all those funds and to continue to operate. So now I'm just replenishing.
Okay. I did know that just this morning, the commissioners approved a new travel and training ordinance. This is going to be a joint ordinance that will require council's approval at our May meeting. In Lauren's Vasia request here for additional appropriation, there is a $5,000 travel and training line item. Given that meeting of this morning, it seems to me to be premature to approve the travel and training additional appropriation until this council reviews the ordinance, just approved by the commissioners. It is a joint ordinance. I would suggest that we approve the Vasia request as presented with the exception to travel and training, and make that line item be zero at this time. And then at our May meeting, which is before any of the proposed travel plans Lauren provided, we can consider the request to appropriate the funds then.
What do you mean by a main meeting?
Our council May meeting on May 11th.
What, May, the month of May meeting?
Yeah, not Maine.
Oh. I think we ought to just go ahead and pass it all right now, because if there's any travel funds not used, it automatically goes back to the general fund.
No, it doesn't go back to the general fund. This is a fee fund.
Okay. You're sure about that?
Lauren, since it's prior to any travel, this shouldn't affect any decisions
No, no.
you, in your future plans, unless something in the ordinance from the commissioners should throw a wrench into that. And if so, then
Yeah.
that would be something you would deal with them on, correct? Or-
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So would I go to the commissioners first to get approval?
Well, let's wait until the ordinance
Okay.
gets done and see,
Okay.
see what happens there, and then
Okay.
we'll revisit this in May. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yes. It's just that the cart has come before the horse. It's just a timing
Sure.
situation, and we want to be cohesive throughout the county. And then council will also have to approve this ordinance. It's a joint ordinance with the commissioners, and we haven't seen it yet. So
Okay,
if that works for you, that would be my suggestion. We
Absolutely.
approve your request as presented, with the exception that in the travel and training line item, we make that 0 for tonight.
okay.
If you're prepared for them.
I am prepared for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve under item E3, Vasia guardianship fees. We approve as presented with the exception of travel and training be reduced to 0 until our next meeting possibly.
Second.
I have a motion by Pamela Burton, a second by John Mallers. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
We are on to item F, other business. Number 1, approval of Johnson County Redevelopment Commission 2025 annual report. And I can say I serve on this board. However, I missed last month or this month's meeting. I was out of town and we could not get the internet to work. So I was unable to Zoom in. But I'm sure you're prepared to catch us up on all that we need to know.
I am. For the record, Jeff Peters from Peters Franklin, financial advisor to the Redevelopment Commission. One of the requirements of the Redevelopment Commission is to develop an annual report, file that with the executive, the fiscal body, and the DLGF, and also to present it to the fiscal body. So I'm here on behalf of the RDC tonight to do that. The annual report you have before you lays out the members and the officers. Has a revenue section for the I-65 TIP district. It brought in about $111,000 in 2025. I-69 brought in about $205,000. And the RDC also controls an economic development fee fund, and it brought in about $103,000. So total revenue for 2025 was a little north of $420,000. Expenditures in 25 were $84,000 and some change. Biggest expense was $63,750 to HWC for a drainage plan for the I-69 area.
And I assume, Mr. Peters, the RDC did approve this at
The
their
RDC
meeting?
has approved it, yes.
Thank you.
I have a question about the money for Aspire. Can you explain that a little bit about how that works?
Not in great detail. Yeah, I know last year, I believe the contribution to Aspire was 30,000. I'm not sure why it's down to 8125, but I do know that Aspire is working toward the marketing of these development and redevelopment areas. And as a common practice for RDCs across the state, that they'll have outside vendors or organizations like Aspire help market that to them. Don't see any of the Aspire people here.
Okay. That's well explained. Thank you.
Thank you. So the funds on hand in section F, the Economic Development Fee Fund has about $269,000. the I-65 area about 224,000, and the I-69 area about 291,000. So RDC now has on hand about 785,000 in cash. And again, those will probably materially change once you have a large development hit one of those.
I was gonna say, Jeff, there's not a lot of tax base in that I-69 corridor right now, correct? And that's why these numbers look a little smaller than what we might hope for in the future.
Yes, and typically what you'll see is this type of expenditure, like the HWC engineering report, is vital to figure out how you're going to put a large facility in that I-69 area with drainage.
It's kind of a prerequisite to development.
Yeah, so what you try and do is, again, get those studies in place so that you can have answers for a developer, because they'll want to act fairly quickly when the time comes.
Thank you.
And yeah, as those develop, we will, I'm sure, bring those forward, the impacts to those. And G laid out the summary of what was accomplished. Also in H, it lays out, you did issue your first bond financing from the TIF district. It's special benefits tax, and I know you all remember this transaction from last year for the road funding. You are actually making the payments from your local income taxes, which you have planned for several years to undertake that various financing. But also, part of that debt is secured with the TIF increment from I-65 and I-69. So this locks in geographically your area until such time as you get some of that development done. But those bonds were issued in 2025 in the amount of 37,870,000. And that then begins the 25-year clock running on those two areas. So they potentially will expire in 2050.
So I have a question about, I'm sorry, am I interrupting you?
No, sir.
I have a question about the TIF districts and the money that comes directly from the TIF district. Is it captured within that TIF district, or can it be used elsewhere?
It is captured in the TIF district and subject to what legal counsel defines anything benefiting or serving the TIF district.
That
And different
particular,
attorneys will give you different opinions as to that. So if it is benefiting and serving, even if it is outside the TIF district, I believe it can be used.
all right.
And the last 68 pages are all the parcels, the information.
Mhm.
With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
So Jeff, do all those parcel, the assessed value and corresponding tax, do those foot to the total on the TIF side? And does it also include, I'm just curious, the 269, is that property tax too coming from those units?
The far right-hand column, the incremental AV, that will be the assessed value that is above and beyond the base. That will be subject to the tax rate if it sits in I-65, or the tax rate if it sits in I-69. Because it is invisible to the taxpayers that are inside the TIF district. They pay the same tax rate as the people sitting right
All
outside.
right, okay, let me ask it another way. The corresponding tax then is the source of all the funds that come into the fund balance?
Correct. It is the tax rate applied to that incremental AV, subject to any adjustments that might occur at the auditor's office, et cetera, and delinquency.
Including the commission fund, right? The JC, the redevelopment commission fund
The
4112.
commission fund are those redevelopment fees and the economic development fee. I may have read that ordinance several years ago when you established the TIF district, but I don't know exactly what those are.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get my bearings on
all the sources of funds are to the RDC.
Yeah, so only the TIF, I-65 and I-69 funds are truly TIF funds, subject to the restrictions that Mr. Myers was talking about. My understanding is the Economic Development Fee is not a TIF fund, so it will be limited to whatever you established that economic development fee structure and fund for its uses would be limited to that.
Thanks.
I am ready to entertain a motion unless there is further questions for Mr. Peters.
I move to approve.
I have a motion from John Dittmers,
Second.
second by Jonathan T. Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then item F2 has been removed from the agenda. And I take it you get to stay for item F3.
I do.
This is approval of resolution 2026-04. A resolution of the County Council of Johnson County, Indiana, approving the issuance of certain Hensley Fire Protection District general obligation bonds and other related matters. That was a mouthful.
Again, for the record, Jeff Peters from Peters Franklin. We are going to serve as municipal advisor on this bond issue. I came to the council with the fire district in April of 2024 to kind of preface the ordering of the fire truck and the amount of time it takes to deliver one. We wanted to forewarn the council that a couple of years into the future, where we are today, we would come back and ask for approval to issue this debt in order to pay for the fire truck that should be delivered in September of 27. And why we are here today is the fire district issued bonds about 10 years ago to build its firehouse. They are on their last year of levy for that debt repayment. If you are to grant the ability to issue these general obligation bonds in 26, we will close them late in the year, get them on the tax rolls for 27. So there will be basically the same tax rate continuing in 27 that there is in 26. It would go forward for 10 years into the future. The amount of this project is estimated at $1,170,000 for the truck and some related equipment to it. Again, the tax rate would be pretty much the same. Our estimate is the rate would be 2.79 cents and the current debt rate is 2.89 cents. The current estimated tax impact on a $250,000 homestead is about $35 for the year. And we have local legal counsel, president of the fire district board and the fire chief to explain to you the need of the truck and why it's time to do that.
Good evening, Mark Dunn, Fire Chief, Trafalgar Fire Department. This apparatus will be replacing a 2002 fire truck. So whenever it comes in September of next year, the truck will be 25 years old. So that's the reason for issuing this bond and purchasing of a new fire truck. I can answer any questions related to that if you'd like.
And what do you plan on doing with the truck?
The current truck, the plan is to put it in reserve status. So we'll hang on to that. If anything, it's still a great truck. It's our first out right now. We've done a really good job of taking care of it for the last 24 years, and that'll move into reserve status for the department, which currently we have no reserves. So as far as an engine goes.
Do we have any other questions for this group about their brand new red shiny fire truck? I assume it's red.
Fire trucks are red. That's
They-
correct.
I read.
They're red. With that being said, I am ready to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
From,
Approve item or under F, item 3, approval of resolution 2026-04.
Second.
I have a motion by Pam Burton, a second by Ron Bates. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Old and new business. Approval of ordinance 2026-04, an ordinance amending council ordinance 2005-03, imposing the Johnson County food and beverage tax. Hello, Treasurer's Office.
Good evening. Kim Hamilton, Johnson County. Mark's a little bit taller.
You're shorted, yes.
Johnson County Treasurer. I have Kelly Fritz, my Chief Deputy, and Steve Vinings, the Deputy Treasurer who handles food and beverage currently. And I just wanted to see if you had any questions about the packet that was issued to you regarding food and beverage, if I can answer any questions.
I don't have any questions, but if you would, for the public, I'd like you to explain what was in the packet and why you're here today and how we've addressed it, discussed it prior to, so everyone
Sure.
will have a thorough understanding.
Absolutely. So Johnson County is the only municipality in the state of Indiana that collects our own food and beverage tax. Every other municipality is collected through the Department of Revenue at the state. In your packet, we had an amended ordinance, obviously, amending it from the county collecting it to letting the state of Indiana's Department of Revenue collect the taxes. I had a list of pros and cons on why it would be best for the state to start to take this project over and start collecting. The biggest pro on our list is the software that we currently have is at its end of life. It's no longer supported by the company that supplied us with the software. The existing software contains glitches, and one of our biggest issues coming up on us is we are unable to print the 2027 vouchers that need to be sent out to all of the vendors. And I know the past treasurer made several attempts to develop software for this to take place of the current software that we have, and spent 18 months, I believe, on it and could not get a company to come through with the type of software that was needed for this. Any other developer's costs were over $1 million to pursue. I have several emails from vendors that we currently have that are asking why don't we go to being able to pay online? Why are we so far behind? There was a email in there from one of the tax accountants, and he handles like 18 accounts. He was going to be here tonight, but he had a death in the family and emailed me earlier today and couldn't make it. So he's requesting asking why we're the only one in the state that still does it this way.
Was that Mr. Capon?
Yes.
Okay.
Issues that we have at a county level is the health department must notify the treasurer's office when a new food permit is issued, adding extra administrative steps on our end and the health department's end. The treasurer staff must manually reach out to each vendor and explain Johnson County's food and beverage tax requirement and explain why it's different than every other one. So if you have a McDonald's and he owns 10 McDonald's, we're the only one that he has to send a paper about you and a check or come in the office and pay with the voucher and cash. We have a lot that don't even have checks that come in and bring cash to pay that. So if they were to pay this at the state level, they could pay it on their in-time account where they pay their sales tax.
So does does the state charge the county a fee to do that?
No.
Oh, well then.
Kim, I have a question. I know when this was all first implemented, we paralleled with the state. And at that time, we, meaning the auditor's office, paralleled with the state. And there were lots of errors found on our part. There was lots of money gleaned that we may not have gleaned had we not been doing our own collection.
Mm-hmm.
So I am assuming your office and your predecessor prior to you have been monitoring that to see, to catch any errors or glitches? and
Yes.
See, have they pretty much got it straightened out? Or they're pretty much on course
To
now?
my
with the
knowledge,
numbers
there
that
have
we're at?
only been, since this was implemented in 2005, there's only been 2 errors in the food and beverage tax. And now we have 20 years of data that we can look back on. And if this goes through and we get this implemented, we will have a report that will be by vendor. So it'll list every vendor in Johnson County and how much they have paid. So we can continue to monitor that. And they've told us if there's any issues, contact us with the information you have on the vendor and they will reach out to them.
So you will
Getting it
continue,
corrected.
your
We
office,
will continue to monitor it very closely for, I would say, the rest of the year.
is this going to, as Melinda was alluding to, is cost effect? Is this going to affect us as far as costing us money? Or
So-
is this going to give us more money? Or is this going to be the savings from not doing all the work and the accuracy of the reporting?
I included a spreadsheet in your packet and I went through manually every month from this past year and figured the interest. The only thing we will lose is the interest that we earn on if Steve has a check that's deposited on the 20th of January, say, and then we send it to the state on the 1st or the last day of the month. So we have 10 or 11 days where we're collecting interest. So the interest that I have figured from this past year that we would lose is just a little over $5,000. But I think we will make that up in businesses that we will catch that the state already have in their system that have fallen through the cracks by our extinct way of doing this.
I have a question, Kim. Because, when I was treasurer, I loved to collect interest money. That was my big win. That's how I
Yeah.
monitored winning or losing, how much interest we earned. So if the state collects the money, there might be what you could call a float. And they have that. But I'm thinking, if I remember right, and I need you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, doesn't the majority of that food and beverage money come in the week before?
It comes in the week before it's due. So
Okay.
like the 3rd week of the month is
So
when
the-
it comes in.
So we really don't get that much float or interest off that money.
No. And then
Okay.
I also did, one of the questions that we've had posed to us is about the penalties that we collect.
Yes.
And the penalties are not that much. But they will forward those penalties to us.
Okay, so that's not something they keep.
No, they do
Those-
not keep that. It will
those
be
come
forwarded
to the
us.
county.
Yes.
And this company that you were talking about that said they could no longer support the system that we were using, is that the same company that the gentleman came in and designed something specifically for the county many, many years ago, a private young man?
That, I'm
Or
not
is
sure
it
who designed the current one that we
different?
use. I know Michelle had used Daniel Elliott to try to
Yeah.
create one and that
That failed
that
epically.
failed. Yeah.
When I took office in 2017, there was a young man, he was independent. It wasn't like a firm that had been contracted by the former treasurer to develop the software that you're using now. And, the whole intent of him to design that software, if I understand right, was so that the taxpayers could pay online and connect that payment to a voucher. Well, the software was developed, it was paid for, that treasurer left, I came in, and the software was never capable of accepting online payments. So that's what you're using now. And we had a couple problems with it our first year. And there was some kind of falling out between the software developer and our county attorneys at the time. And he refused to work with Johnson County moving forward from that. So it's been on a wing and a prayer that it's hung in there this long.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time when it implodes.
Mhm. And if it implodes tomorrow, we're in really big trouble.
Right.
Kim, I've got a question, kind of follow up to Pam's. This takes some administrative support, I presume, to collect these funds and so forth. So can those resources can be basically
They-
reallocated, right?
Yes,
Which is another savings because you can do more, if you're not doing this, you can do other
Yes.
things. Is that fair?
that's my plan, yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna reassign some duties. Of course, we're gonna continue to watch that, and Steve's handles the food and beverage right now, so he's gonna continue to watch it since he's very familiar with
Less
it.
effort, right?
But it's gonna take a lot less effort.
Time.
Steve gets on the phone, he gives us 8 a.m. wake up calls every morning to the people that are behind. We had a hearing in February, or 4 or 5 hearings in February for people that were behind. We have no way to make them pay. It's a trust tax, so they have to tell us what they owe. We don't know what they owe. It's based on their sales. It's 1% of their sales. So those hearings that we had in February, they brought in their sales, went through the whole spiel. They're already all behind again.
Two more questions and I'll be quiet.
Go ahead.
Mr. Capen's role in this
Uh-huh.
is what? And is there a cost to his facilitation?
No, he was just,
What's
he
he-
handles food and beverage accounts for customers in Johnson County, for businesses in Johnson
He's not got a
County.
role in-
No, sir.
in transitioning or anything like
No,
that?
he just reached out to the council by himself and asked, so that's what kind of pushed this along.
Okay.
It had been in, I know it had been in Michelle's mind, and that was one thing we talked about when I took office was, this is one thing you need to work on.
And then I just segued in my last point, and that goes to transitioning. This is a fundamental change to users, right? As far as those who owe, so they're doing it, whatever they're doing today is going to be different.
Yes, so what we will do is we will send them a letter and it will have the directions on our change, and then it'll have the directions on how they need to go to the state in time site and sign up, and then we'll help any of them that call in.
Yeah,
We'll help them through that process.
I saw.
Yeah, oh, we're not just gonna dump them.
I saw call customer service and I had all these bells and whistles
Yeah.
going off in my mind as far as we've all had our experience with customer service, right?
Yeah.
So how are we helping people transition?
Yeah, we'll help them
Mine.
through that process if they need it, if they reach out to us.
Okay.
Well, I think the unseen factor here is that they're going to save money. There's going to be 600 vendors out there that are going to have an ease. I can't, I can't imagine because I'm working currently with a system that uses vouchers. And I know that when you go to the In Time site, it has fail safes in it. If you plug the wrong number in, it'll let you know.
Yeah,
And so I think it's going to be a great aid to all of those constituents. I'm not going to sit here and profess that I know much about this. I'm a functional illiterate, but I know that it's a lot easier dealing with an electronic path than it is vouchers.
Mhm.
And that creates a lot of work and can create a lot of error.
yes.
Can it, so just based on what John said, this is obviously gonna help compliance. Is there a chance, a possibility that the old method has hurt economic development as far as restaurants or those type of things in this
I
county?
think we have a lot of food trucks that fall through the cracks because they move around so much. So the state system, they will have to report how much they did in Marion County, how much they did in Johnson County, and then it will figure.
Well, you're not just people who haven't paid, but people who won't come here because they don't want to have to do it manually. Is there a chance that that's?
We have a lot of, Steve deals with a lot of food trucks. When he explains our system to him, they're like, we're just not gonna do business in Johnson
Okay,
County.
okay.
Can I have one quick question here? It looks like as this is successful, we're changing horses in the middle of the stream. So do we, you can explain that, you know, go retroactive back to the beginning of the year, or you just start
what-
now and go forward?
What we will do is once they get the letter, we have to give the state, we have to send the state the signed ordinance if it's approved. We have to give the state 60 to 120 days for them to be ready to take us into their system. And then we will, sometime in that, we'll have to figure that out with them, but sometime in that period, we will send a letter to each of our vendors that currently pay in office or mail us a check. And then they will set up an account. Most of them should already have an In Time account because they pay their sales tax on it. But then they will add the food and beverage link on their account.
So what I'm hearing, Kim, it will basically be a one-stop shop for any food and beverage merchant in Johnson County.
Yes.
Just a one-step process versus 2 steps now, In Time, online, manually Johnson County.
Yeah. And we have restaurants that bring in cash because they don't have checks. I mean, there's a lot of younger business owners
True.
that, you talk to 20-year-olds, they don't know what a check is.
My 26-year-old son does not.
Yeah.
I don't have.
Any additional questions for our treasurer? I see a hand in the audience. Mr. West, would you like to state your name for the record and?
Ron West, Johnson County Commissioner. Let me give you a little history on the food and beverage tax. When Mitch Daniels was governor of the state, he called in the county councils for the surrounding counties. And they were looking basically for a funding mechanism. They said the convention center, but it was more for the football stadium, I think, at the time. And one of the provisions that Governor Daniels put forth as kind of a carrot was each county could collect the tax theirself. Charlie Canary accompanied me to that meeting, and at the time, almost every council member there was eager to do that. That was a great asset to, they felt like, every one of them. When it come time for adoption, we were the only county that adhered to that, to self-collection. And I'll give you something that should give you pause to think. For 7 days prior to the adoption of this ordinance, I averaged 4 phone calls a day from 2 attorneys at the state trying to talk Johnson County out of collecting the tax. Do you think that was for the benefit of the county? I doubt not. That in itself ought to tell you that you should be circumspect about allowing the state, in this particular instance, to collect the tax. If we look at our association with the state and their promises made and promises not kept, when Terry McLaughlin was sheriff, the state said, we want to do a statewide communications event or program. And the county was on the hook for about $7 million and they were going to pay us back. They didn't pay us back. We ate that. I got to put my glasses on here and go down this list. Ken Branston Air. For several years, first off, I've monitored this tax on a monthly basis and have every month since its adoption. And I can tell you that one of the reasons the state didn't want us to collect it, I believe, was because it allowed a barometer by which we could gauge pretty much what every other county should be paying in relation to what we're paying and in consideration of population. I fought the state for several years in the fact that they were misappropriating the refunds that we should be getting when we met that $5 million amount that everybody paid into. And it wasn't until Mrs. Crouch became state auditor, Suzanne Crouch, that we got anybody to listen to us, and we in fact recovered in excess of $280,000 that the state had not paid us because errors in their method of calculation. When you talk about the state and their fairness and how well they're going to treat you, let's talk about the DOC inmates, for example, the per diem. For over 50 years, the state has paid us a flat amount for each DOC prisoner we house every day. And that amount is probably 75 or less % of what the state charges us if they house one of our people. You're all familiar with Senate Bill 1, and you're going to be dealing with that going forward. If nothing else, Senate Bill 1 ought to tell you that the state's not acting in our benefit. we're going to be severely hampered through property tax revenue losses and reductions. Last session, House Bill 1001, if you're familiar with that, the state tried to take away our planning and zoning efforts to control our zoning and our housing in our own neighborhoods. They even went so far as to take away the basic right that every citizen has, and that is to publicly address their concerns. So they were saying no public hearings. You remember back a couple years ago or so when the state was faced with a severe overcrowding in the state prisons? What did they do to alleviate their problem? They said that any level 6 felony convicted of 365 days or less had to stay in the county jail. Instant relief to their prison system. 2 years ago, the counties decided to do away with the Cume Bridge Fund because we're losing money. We were collecting a little over $700,000, maybe $800,000 a year, and we were subjecting ourselves to millions of dollars in bridge repair. In less than 10 months, they reversed that. They passed a resolution or a bill that mandated the county had to put back in place that Cume Bridge Fund. We got a county hospital that you're all familiar with, one of the best in the state. And like so many regional hospitals, they're in severe financial problem right now because the state's paying 54 cents on the dollar Medicaid, and that's been the same for over 30 years. So that's just a little history, and I'm going to talk about the current situation now. As we've heard from Kim and Steve and Kelly, and listen, I love these people. They're doing a great job. I've got no problem with some of their concerns. But we've had 25 years in which to update this collection process. And I know Michelle tried, I even sat on some meetings with her. I think there's a process out there. Give us a little time, we can find an answer to this where it can be done electronically. As far as the vendors and having to do the voucher, yeah, that's a little bit of an inconvenience, and I did that for many years with my business here in the county. And you heard Kim say some of them don't have checks, they have cash. Well, I can tell you, in tax, you can't pay with cash. Once you go on in tax, the only way you can pay it is through a direct debit from your account. We talked about the health department and certain vendors falling through the cracks. That's not going to change if the state's collecting this money. The state's not going to be aggressive in trying to find these people. We'll probably, Steve, we worked like crazy trying to route them out and find them. So that's not going to change. We talked a little bit about the float, and I'll just bring that up just basically here. It's not a lot of money, but it is some money. The vendors have to pay the tax by the 20th of the month. We don't pay it to the state until the 5th of the following month. So you have 15, 16 days at least float on that money. And that accrues through right now is about 4 months. But if you go back through the history of the collection, it probably averaged more like 5 or 6 months at the tune of 300,000 average. And you'll just take an average annual interest rate back then at 3%. That's a sizable amount of money that is earned. The penalties we get, and Kim has referenced that the state has given her written assurance that we will still get those. And as an example, last month, the penalties were $39,035.50. So when I met with Kim and we talked about this, I said, Kim, I'm reluctant to believe the state's going to give those funds to us, and here's why. When the state does the calculation, once we meet the $5 million and they do their percentage refunds, they base it on the money that they have posted on the worksheet that I get every month. We don't give them the penalties or the penalty amount. When we send them our amounts, it doesn't include that. I don't think the state's gonna allow the other counties to supply that information and us not, and then make their percentage basis on it. So I highly question that they're gonna pass that through to us. I can't say they're not going to, but I highly question it. So I'll leave you with this thought. We're the only county, as Kim mentioned, to collect our own tax. And the stated reason before, I thought it was a barometer. I still believe it is. It keeps the state in line. But maybe more importantly, there should be a certain amount of pride and prestige in the fact that we are the only county that does that. Our process is cumbersome right now. I don't deny that. But I think the solution is not to forfeit our home rule, which we're fighting all the time, and the dignity and prestige that comes along with the collection of this tax, just for the convenience of the vendors, when we can supply that convenience. I firmly believe that through the banking institutions, and I know what can be done right now with direct debits and bill payments and things of that nature, I firmly believe that for a minimal amount of money, we can come up with something to modernize and renovate this system. I would rather see you go down that path, believe me, than the path of letting the state take what we've been able to do as the only county in the state for 25 years. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have kind of a question comment combo here. You made some valid points. I think you made some valid points.
Oh, okay.
I think there's points on both sides. So you feel like there's a workaround, we can come up with another plan. What do you recommend to do that? Calling a committee, or how would you handle that?
I don't know that we need a committee. Committees sometimes are cumbersome, but probably what I would do is go to the banking industry first, talk to some of the people in the banking industry and see how they're handling direct debit funds, where they're directly debiting it from accounts, and then it would go into a specified account. That would be my first step to do that. You know, here's a simple process that people can use too. Your bank will mail a check for you. And I even suggested that possibly we go on just a simple online account, on an internet account, where you have all your vendors listed.
If I could address that point, Ron, the problem is that statute does not allow the county treasurer to have funds on deposit that the county treasurer cannot account for. And so this has always been the crux of the problem. You can't have vendors sending in a tax payment, depositing it into the county bank account, and not know what it is for. Not for 1 day, not for 20 days, not for 10 minutes. The problem has always been trying to connect the payment to an invoice, but there is no invoice because it's a self-reporting tax. And that's why the software needed to be developed that connected the self-reporting tax to the payment, electronic payment coming in. It was very costly to develop. The state has done it at a cost of millions of dollars.
So I even suggested that we could do exactly that. You would have, all of the vendors would supply you with their routing information, their bank account information. It's a simple process. They send you an email. This is the amount of tax I've collected. We would then take that number, apply the 1% discount that they have coming, and debit their account for the balance.
Well, I think at this time, I'd like to give Kim a chance to respond to, thank you, Mr. West. so
Yeah, thank you
much.
guys for listening.
Thank you for- Yep, and
Let me say a couple, on the Aspire things, Jonathan T. Myers. Amanda Rebel up there, she works with site selectors that people are interested in coming to the county. That's the reason we did that with Aspire.
Yeah. I just worry about the funding going to not-for-profits.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sympathetic to Commissioners West's discussion about home rule. But I'm assuming that if we went ahead and switched, that you would monitor the dollar amounts to avoid the 280,000 discrepancy that he was talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
And you had mentioned to me that there hasn't been any difference in the last 8 years at least, but you have been monitoring.
Yes.
But let's say hypothetically, there are problems, some of which he described could happen. And we approve this, can we switch back?
yes.
Yes, we would just have to do another ordinance.
Okay.
For the
so
county to
it's
start
not-
collecting
It
again.
wouldn't be a permanent thing.
Correct.
No, it's a council decision, and it was a council's decision back in 2005. If it is something that we want to try, I mean, the elected official of that office, is saying this is what she recommends. This is her recommendation for her office and her people. If this council votes to try it and it doesn't work for whatever reason, then a new ordinance can be written and proposed to the council that's sitting up here at that time, and it can be pulled back from the state. So it is reversible.
Reverse it, what process would you have in place? You wouldn't even have what you got now. Reversing it would be extremely difficult. I'm not sure the state.
Okay, Tim, I have a question. If you talk to some of your counterparts about some of the issues that Ron brought up about, the discrepancies and those sorts of things, and what is their experience? To the extent you've discussed this with them?
Really, they don't know any different because they started in the beginning.
Okay.
They started in 2005, every other municipality.
Compare it to,
Nothing
right?
to compare it to, no.
And she's kind of on her own.
Yeah, I'm kind of out on an island.
So,
And if it's,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
you go ahead.
No, I said, wanna, see if my memory serves me right. Ron, on the discrepancies that you caught, and I was the auditor at the time that when all of those, a majority of those were done, so I'm very familiar with what you're speaking of. But I want to ask you, knowing that you are someone, as a matter of fact, girls used to have a special name for your watchdoggedness on this program, so I commend you for that. You've saved the county a lot of money. You've caught a lot of mistakes. But in this process that you've continued to do, is this still a reoccurring thing that you're catching these huge amounts that we're not getting? We're having to go and claw money back that they've missed? Are you finding that they've kind of self-corrected over the years and there's not any or as many of those? Or are you still discovering those?
I can tell you that last year, when we met the $5 million amount that we needed, what I call the bogey number, that was the first time when they did the calculations on the refunds, the first time in 25 years that they got it right. Every year prior to that, there was an error. And I worked with, Janie Cope, I've worked with Janie up there now for a good while. And she's very good to work with, but that was the first year that they got it right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I'm willing to, Ron, if you want to do some research in this, I'm willing to shelf this for another month. And we can come back in May. And you can come back and tell us what you found out. I mean, I'd rather do it right and check out all our options before voting on something. And let's just, it's not going to hurt us.
I sort of have a point of view, believe it or not. This has been a discussion item for some time. Kim, this is the recommendation from you and your office as to how you can efficiently operate. I think, Michelle, you said the same thing, that you were kind of in favor of this when you were in the office.
Yes.
I don't know how you felt as an auditor or how you guys feel, but I have no frame of reference other than to rely on what you guys are saying, fully respectful of what Ron's bringing up, because I think they're legitimate. By same token, you guys have a business to run. So to my way of thinking, your recommendation means probably more to me than anything, because I don't have a frame of reference other than I'm relying on you to make the recommendations, I guess. So that's kind of where I find myself.
Thank you.
And I like that.
On that note, I would make a motion to approve. Well, again, being fully respectful of the points that Ron brought up.
I have a motion by John Dittmers,
Second.
second by Jonathan T. Myers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'm gonna oppose it just because I think that we probably ought to do a little more research before we implement something like this, and so that's why I'm gonna say nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Oh. I remove my move.
I had a comment here. What about budget hearing dates? Or when are we gonna confirm those dates up?
We're not there yet. We're gonna hear from Michael Reuter about the county's fiscal plan.
Do you have an estimated timeline of when you plan to confirm those dates?
Close to what they were last year.
Okay, all right.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.